I had a customer request to build a Montessori-style bookcase. The trick is, it had to fit into a small alcove in a child's bedroom. One reason I enjoy designing and building furniture is that I can design it to fit exact spaces and maximize the utilization of the room and the furniture. So we measure the dimensions where this needs to fit, and then head to the drawing board. First thing I did is design the side view. I used this sketch to make the parts. In order to maximize the space, I chose to put a drawer. The bottom half of this bookcase will pull out, revealing a toy box behind. Once we completed the design, we use our Carveco software to program the CNC machine. Now we head to the CNC. I had 2 4-foot by 4-foot sheets of MDF, so that was the material I chose to use. I stopped the CNC momentarily because I didn't use tabs or bridges inside the rectangular holes, so I stopped it and pulled out all of the center sections. Because I didn't do an area clear, I chose to cut out the outside profile to save time. No big deal. I used 4 screws, 1 at each corner, to hold down the sheet. Always make sure your router bit won't hit the screws. Don't ask me how I know that. Load the next sheet, and we're off again. I still enjoy watching the CNC run. I try to get a tight nest, or get my parts as close as possible, so I maximize my material utilization. But I said I had 2 half sheets. I needed 3. Off to the lumber yard. Good dust extraction makes life much more enjoyable, especially with MDF. Now I was going to try something I've never done before. I was going to use the CNC to cut the sheet in half. This way I didn't have to put it on the table saw to keep the remnant. That worked good. Now it's time to clean up these parts. I need to cut off the bridges or tabs, whatever you call them. I use a simple flush trim bit. It's inexpensive and it works very well. Using the tabs properly keeps your parts from getting screwed up by the CNC router bit. Now it's time to use a 1/4-inch round over bit. I used them on all the edges. This is kids' furniture, so you want it to be very touchable. It's all quick work, but it needs to be done. I won't make you watch sanding. I did a quick test fit, and everything fit, so now it's time to do the assembly. I could have had the CNC drill the holes for the screws, but to be honest, I didn't want to change bits. So I did everything with a 1/4-inch diameter bit. Pre-drilling is very important in MDF. You don't want the screws to strip out the wood. And I didn't use the torque on the drill. I hand-finished screwing all of the screws in to make sure they didn't strip. Getting everything organized and aligned was a wrestling match. If I was making more than one of these, I definitely would have had the CNC drill all the holes. It would have been worth changing to an 1/8-inch diameter bit. And now for the wheels. I thought about using slides for the drawer, but they're too expensive, and I am too frugal. I want to get the most for my money. The wheels were very simple. I'd originally planned to use lag screws for the axles, but they kept splitting the MDF. So I went with dowel rods. This system worked very well, and it's very inexpensive. When I cut the dowel rods, I left them long so I could pull them out if I needed to. I'll finish cutting them later. I used washers with the wheels just to cut down friction so it'd roll better. I made sure to leave a large enough gap at the bottom so if it was rolling on carpet, there wouldn't be a problem. Now we'll start assembling the large upper section. You can see I screwed it to one side before I did the other. Then the wrestling match started again, trying to get everything aligned. I won't tell you how long it took me. Again, pre-drill, and then hand tighten the screws at the end. Once you get the first screw in the second side, things start moving quickly. I wanted to add a lower brace across the back to keep everything strong. It also gave a place to bolt it to the wall, because some little kids don't know the difference between a bookcase and a ladder. Do what you feel is best. I used spacers to make sure that the cross brace didn't hit the drawer. This project's just a bunch of screwing around. Well, let's see how this works. I like that. This works just the way I hoped it would. Well, now for the finishing. I was asked to use milk paint because it's water-based and non-toxic. Good for kids' furniture. Well, here's what it looks like painted. I am happy. Now it's time to do the install. As I told you, I screwed it to the wall in case some little rugrat decides to crawl up it. This is just what I wanted. It maximizes the space available, and it has a drawer. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and ring the bell. I appreciate you watching the Johnsonville Woodworker.